We did it. Okay, good job. Well, welcome everybody. It's so weird not doing this live and in person. So thank you for joining us. Little housekeeping. Please remember to mute yourself. We're recording this for other people. I do want to introduce. There's actually a couple of staff people that joined us today from United Way of Central New Mexico. But I do want to introduce Anne Trepiano. If you don't already know her, she's outstanding. She's our grants and data manager. We threw her right into the deep end with a new grant cycle and all kinds of fun things, but she has been super helpful, and she is your probably the one you called when you panicked and forgot your password on EC Impact. So thank you, Anne, for always answering those emails and calls.
Anytime. I'm very happy when you all reach out. It's never, ever a bother. So please don't hesitate to reach out anytime.
You heard it here first. Reach out. If you have questions, please ask. All right. So for the first time ever, we did split this. We split basic needs grants, those applying in the basic needs arena from those applying in the aligned impact. We will cover capacity building in both presentations. You don't need to attend both, even if you're not sure which grant you're going to apply for yet, because we'll record it. You can go and view it, and you can always reach out to us individually. And then we will have one more. If you are a new agency and you're feeling somewhat lost about anything, the new agency application training is Friday. It's Friday, right? And thank you. You rock. Yes. So you can attend that, and that'll go over just some basics of our grants. And then the last piece is that we are not covering results-based accountability in this training, because we have a whole separate training on results-based accountability, which is the method in which we measure impact here at United Way of Central New Mexico. I recommend highly that you review that training. I think it's pretty digestible, but if you get through it and you're glazed over, feel free to reach out to us. It's not total, like it's, oh, we're recording. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna jump right in. Does anybody have any questions before I start though? Okay. And Anne is monitoring the chat for us. All right. So I'm going to do a little overview of what we're about at United Way of Central New Mexico, the different grant tracks that we do offer. We're going to jump right into the basic needs application, some next steps for everyone here, and then we'll try to close with a question and answer where I reply to your questions, and we'll close it out. So I think it's important that we talk a little bit about how United Way comes to give out around $2 million. So if you've been with us for a while and you apply every year and you're a grantee, possibly a past employee of United Way, you know that we run workplace campaigns, and it traditionally was a August through December sort of culmination of fundraising and pledge forms and things. I will say that we've transitioned into a modern United Way where we really want to connect more with our agencies, with our companies, with volunteerism, even in the time of COVID. So we are doing more of a year-round holistic view of fundraising now. And I think you'll find that I hope that to find more volunteers and more people really interested in the work that you're doing, because this work that you're doing and that you apply for grants, this programming is so essential to our community. And I hear over and over again how wonderful it is for people to review your applications, because hearing about the work that you do is really important to them, and it reminds them of how much it is needed. I think we all think food banks and shelters are important, and emergency medical, we all know that they're important, but when you really hear the stories from you folks, I think it makes a difference. And I want to say how important I really feel like it is to how our community grows. So you will be hearing more we have a new employee that is working to connect us more with volunteer opportunities, things, and you'll be hearing from her, I'm sure soon. And we're really going to work together to try to tackle some of these big results All right. We have 3 funding tracks at United Way as of 2-3 years ago. They have not changed from last year, so let me say that first for those of you that memorized them. For this training, we're focused on basic needs grants, and how we measure those is through outputs. So that is number of meals, number of clients served, things like that. Number of activities, it could be quite a few different things, but that is how we measure impact on basic needs grants. And we also have capacity building grants still, up to $15,000. Ideally, these are helping your program or agency grow their capacity in data, in staff development, if you're convening different partners or internally. We also added community organizing for those organizations that are working to get multiple collaborations off the ground or work with the counties, jurisdictions that they have. We want to support that work too. The full list of allowable activities and definitions is available in the in the grants manual, which has basic needs and impact in it, as well as the capacity building. I think it's important to know that if you got a capacity building grant in the last year, you won't get one again. Ideally, they are one-time things. Per project, I guess is what I should say. You could have a different project each year, but we want to try and spread the love with those capacity building grants. I will say some of the best written grants. It's our smallest application and really great material there. All right, so I'm jumping right into the basic needs application. If I get a thumbs up from Anne that we're good to do that, no one's panicking in the chat that I'm missing. Okay, great. So these questions that you're seeing here are directly in the application, and they are associated with a number of points in the rubric. So I think it's important to review the rubric, which is in the grants manual, while you're writing your grant, before you do it and then after, just to see if you think you're hitting those points. So the critical need as evidenced, I want to talk about this one just a little bit because some people last year lost points on whether or not they provided both internal and external data. So it's really important that you talk about your internal data. That is going to be your own data that you've collected because you've run the program. You might have less of that if you're a newer program. That's understandable. That is something I would say in the executive summary. But external data is equally important. I think it's important to talk about how you know that this work is important and how, I mean, for instance, I'm going to take people experiencing homelessness. I think the average panelist reviewing your application knows that people experiencing homelessness is a severe problem in our 4-county area. I think that they know that. What they want to see, though, is data that you have, that you saw, and you used to develop your program. So it doesn't have to be an entire dissertation, but I would mention how you use it to define or develop your program. Strategies and or best practices, and informed by external and internal evidence. So we just talked about the difference and importance of including internal and external evidence. For this, I would literally use the word best practice. So our program is developed based on these best practices, X, Y, and Z. Or in some cases, our program is a best practice. Like, we developed the best practice. We do have a couple programs that they were the first onto the scene, and their best practice, they know that they have written the best practices. So what you're going to want to do is write about that. And I would, for the benefit of the panelists, write the word best practice or strategy. How does your program indicate that it's not duplicative and complements and collaborates other agencies? Very few agencies lost points on this last year. We just want to hear how you work with other agencies. We have a lot of agencies that collaborate with other ones, and it's fantastic to hear about that. And we love, we know that we need more than one food pantry, right? You can't just have one for all of any of the counties. So we know that we need more than one, but it's nice to know that you all talk to each other. And this year we did add method of service delivery, which actually most people include. We just want to hear how you're getting the service to the clients. This is particularly interesting via COVID, and I'm impressed with how innovative people have been. But yeah, we just want to know that you have a sound method of service delivery. So it is asked that you explain that in your executive summary, a couple of sentences. And like I said, you can see how many points and how to get 5 points on that point in the grants manual under the basic needs rubric. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, this is just a little like fun note that if you are serving individuals and meals, we do want you to sort of separate how you define those. Not everyone can, and if you're confused about this, like I'm happy to help you based on what your agency collects or what your program collects. But we do have separate boxes for individuals served, which is calculated via the demographic form, and meals served, which is actually where you put a number in. And what's important about that is that if you don't know because you just get pounds of food, we use Feeding America's metric to calculate. And I should have looked that up before this presentation, but I want to say it's like 1.2 pounds of food equals one meal. I am sure that those of you working at food pantries and food banks are like burning right now because you know the right answer, and I just boofed it. But it's on the application. So for the performance measures, which is the next section of the application, there's a drop-down list, or you can insert your own. The drop-down list is ones that we've used in the past, number of toiletries, number of nights stayed at a shelter, things like that. But if there's not one that fits your program, please feel free to write your own in. This is where we ask you to separate meals served versus pounds of food and make sure that you're accurate on that. As a note about that is just that our panelists sometimes just get confused if you're not super clear about whether you're saying meals served or pounds of food. So I would just be super clear about that. And then you're going to want to indicate the number of activities and or number of clients. It could be, number of times that we delivered something or number of meals. Those are the performance measures. All right. This is what the form looks like inside of EC Impact. So you'll see output measure other under output measure for basic needs. So just needs to say something like number of, or number of activities, number of clients, number of toothbrushes, etc. in that other output. And you do need to have a minimum of 2 basic needs output measures. You need to measure at least 2 things. It can absolutely be meals and clients served, pounds of food and meals, but you need to have 2 to get 5 points on the rubric. The third is optional, but if you capture more information and you're willing to share it, we'd love to have it. For the output measure, how do you collect data? We like to know if you have a way of counting things. So, some people use scan cards to count meals. Some people use surveys. Some people use, there's tons of ways to collect data, and we just want to hear how that works for your agency, especially in the time of global pandemic. If this also has points associated with it on the rubric, I would check that to see that you get 5 points on that. You really do have to have a sound way of collecting data. That's all they want to see, is just making sure that you're thinking about it and collecting it in a more than just, Bob guesses. That would not be great.
Hey,
All
Melissa,
right.
one question, which
Yeah,
I feel I should know the answer to this, but I
okay.
don't. So
That's okay.
can you make only one custom metric or multiple?
Multiple.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. You would put them all in that box up there, and then you would put the, like, for the secondary and the, I mean, you can only do 3, but then you would put the numbers to follow that. All right. Moving on to budgets. Woo. Okay. This part of the budget is only reviewed by the Community Impact Council. The reason for that is a long story, but mostly it's just because we're not looking to make sure that your agency is financially stable, because you passed the financial standards review. Good job. We really just want to make sure that you don't put everything under other. So this form gets tricky for people, but again, we're always here to help. I wanted to point out this year that we want to know your actual prior fiscal year, and your fiscal year may be different than our grant period, which is great fun during the FSR, finding all of those different people have some weird fiscal years. So I know that that can get tricky in the counting of how things work out. If you need help with that, please reach out to us directly, because I do realize that if you're a smaller agency and you're kind of volunteer run, it's a little tricky to figure out if you fit in the how you calculate in the grant period. Other income down here, add a label in your bottom left there for your revenue. You can add a label there. So if you do choose to add other income, if you don't have one of these to choose from, please add a label. It's important. Just they get a little squirrely, the Community Impact Council volunteers, Investment Council volunteers, when it just says other and all of the money is there. All right, program expenses. This is again pretty self-explanatory, I think. It has one extra bonus. So during the grant period, we want to just know exactly where our dollars are going. And again, this is another one where it would not be ideal if everything is in the other expenses, unless you label the other expenses. Then it's fine. All right. Ooh, my thing is flashing. If the organization received United Way money for COVID relief, does this belong in the budget that you were asking about? Yeah, I would put it in. Oh, well, I don't know. Unless you use the COVID, it depends, Pamela. If you use the COVID for the program, then yeah. If not, then probably not. This is just program, not agency. So I know that's a little tricky. Sorry, I just like jumped in there and oop. Okay. All right. The budget justification, the panelists that score your overall application will see the budget justification. So they'll see how much you asked for, the number of full-time staff committed to the program, and then we just want to hear like a justification for your spending. It is helpful if you spell out the dollars. So if you're going to ask for, please don't ask for only $5,000, but if you're going to ask for $5,000 and 1,000 for this and 1,000 for that, I will say a surprising amount of agencies added wrong in the budget justification. I'm happy to say no one lost points about that, but it was concerning that they didn't add like the numbers that they put in their description of how they were going to spend didn't add to the amount requested, and I was surprised at how often that happens. So just double check. You just want to make sure that that all adds to the number that you're asking. That's helpful. All right, so new this year. So we last year and the year before were the first 2 years we debuted what we called all or nothing funding, which was new from how we used to do it, with everybody got like most people got some of their award. So we got a lot of feedback from basic needs agencies that was harder on them. So the Community Investment Council and United Way came together, and we found sort of a middle ground in order to make sure that the money, you get enough of a grant for it to be useful to you. We know this is quite a process. We know that programming takes tons of work and tons of people and time, and what we want is to make sure that you don't get less than is useful to you. I realize every penny is useful, but we want to make sure that you get a substantial amount of what you need to run the program. And I also, one of the complaints we had about scaled funding was that we're not sure panelists are always qualified to tell you how much you need to run a program, because need is relative depending on whether you're actually running the program or you're just hearing about the program in a presentation. So with that said, and it's really important, your funding, if you're selected, it will be at least 50% of your ask, at least. All right, so for basic needs agencies, there is an additional budget form. And what we ask you to do is tell us, with the outputs that you chose earlier in the performance measures, if we gave you 75% of your ask, how would that change your output? So if you could serve 100 people before, and now you can only serve 75, and then you can only serve 50, and then we have a little narrative box to explain. So let's see, this is what, okay, so let's start on just this part. So does that make sense? We're gonna add, there's like two boxes, and we're gonna enter output measure, and it's the same output measure you had before, and then 75% of your ask, and then 50% of your ask. And there is a portion, it says in the instructions, which please read, says don't, if 50% funding would not be helpful to you, tell us that. That does not mean that you wouldn't get funded, but it's helpful for us to know. All right, the last doozy. Someone had a question. Should I jump in there? So when we add in our output measures, are they for the entire agency or for the grant we are proposing? Just for the grant, for the program you are proposing. Same for this form too. Make sure that they should match. They're just for the program, for the grant, for this pot of money. So this form is at the bottom of budget form C. And if you are not asking for more than $70,000, you do not have to fill it out. But if you are asking us the grant request, regardless of your agency size, if you're asking us for more than $70,000, you do have to fill this out. So this is with your program. Remember that. And I know that's a little tricky for some people because their entire agency is their program. Fixed costs versus variable costs. And if you are not an accounting major, and that is not your jazz, we did do some examples of what that would look like. And I'm happy to help you with this. Please reach out if you get to this form and you're asking for above 70K. We didn't intend for this to be a burden. We intended to use this information to make educated decisions about partial funding. So our trial is this form. I saw a question pop in there. Let me see. What is my definition of a basic needs agency? I thought basic needs was referring to the type of agency. Oh, type of ask, not the type of agency. Oh, that's a good question, actually. Our definition of a basic needs agency is anyone providing emergency or immediate need. So food, emergency shelter, now I'm blanking, emergency, like dental, meals. I'm trying to think of other things. It's in the manual, our specific definition of it, though, I will say that. our specific definition is in the manual. So if you want to see how, and it also, if you do some of that work, you could have an impact grant. It sort of depends on how you collect data. So you're welcome to schedule a meeting with myself or Anne, and we can kind of talk through where's the best place for you to apply if you're wondering. I'm going to pause on the fixed and variable costs without getting into a accounting lecture, which I don't really have time for. Does anybody have any questions? Do you need me to go over this more? I'm going to pause and sit in the awkward Zoom silence for a moment because I want to be clear about budget part C because it's new, it's exciting, it's good stuff. All right, sitting in the Zoom silence.
So I do want to clarify the accounting of those served.
Yeah.
I thought your metrics are for your program. So if this funding is just combined with other funds you do to, have a goal of serving like maybe 4,000 students, for example.
Okay.
Do you, because I thought it said something in the manual about this will be part of, what you report back out in your end of year reports and those kind of things. And then I thought the 75 and 50% would then be kind of the impact of less funding from this particular grant on those counts. Is that correct? Or do you put in the counts of, if I ask for this much money, this is 500 students maybe of the 4,000 will probably support?
I think how you had it first was correct. You want to put the total served by your program and then how this funding would affect. You probably have other funding for these programs because we ask that you have other funding for these programs.
Yeah.
But yes, we want you to tell us how your outputs would be affected if you had less than 100% of your ask.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. I feel good about budget part C. I might get a flurry of individual meeting requests after this, but that's okay. I love you all. Happy to see your Zoom faces. All right. Oh, hold on. Click there. Yes. All right. I want to talk a little bit about the demographic form. I think the only tricky part is the location of clients versus location of services. We do this because we use this data to report out like the volume of work. And we sort it in a number of ways, but we get a lot of donors who ask us, are clients in my community being served? And the only way for us to really answer that is for you to kind of parse out the location of the clients versus the location of the services. Because so many agencies are doing work, maybe you're housed in Bernalillo County, but you serve all 4 counties. And I think that's important to note that you're doing the big heavy lifts there. Or maybe you're just serving, you're the only one serving Torrance or Sandoval County. We just want to parse that out. And we use this data in our marketing and in telling stories. And also we will be using it to get an idea of the look. We're trying to use more demographic data to get an idea of how and where the need is greatest in our 4 county area. So we do use this data in that way, and we sort it and share it with our marketing team. All right, capacity building grants. This is a 1-page application. That being said, please answer all the questions. We tried to make it easy because we want these to be good springboard grants, but not be as lengthy as the rest of our applications. If you want to apply for a capacity building grant, you do have to ask us just via email because we have to attach you to the form in our software. So I went over the allowable activities in an earlier slide, so I'm going to jump right into these questions. So this is the entire grant application. It's amount requested. Again, it's up to $15,000. I would not ask for salaries. It is not a non-allowable cost because you can use it for a percentage of someone's time to attend a training or something similar to that, some sort of capacity building activity, but you wouldn't get funded to pay for a portion of the executive director's salary. These are meant to be sort of building capacity for your agency or program. So the first question actually asks how you kind of align with UW-CNM, and this is just to make sure we do have a lot of agencies that actually only apply for capacity building grants. So it's kind of just a catch-all just to see where you fit in with the rest of our larger body of work. So you do have to answer that question, and you will lose points. The capacity building rubric is in the grants manual. You will lose points if you do not. It only has to be one sentence. You know, our program, insert name here, aligns with mission, families, housing, security. That's all I need. And it does say how does your program align. So, you know, because our program, you know, houses women who were previously incarcerated. How will your agency use the funds to improve capacity? That's pretty explanatory. We just want to hear what the plan is. For improving the agency's impact, we want to hear a little bit about like why this is necessary, right? So if you're proposing to implement a new survey, right, and you need to train people on how to use the survey software. So you're asking for the funds for a percentage of their time and for the software for a year to do that. And how it will improve the agency's impact is you're going to review the data and use it to continuously improve your program. And the implementation, this is a question that weirdly gets left off of a lot of people's answers. We do want to hear like what the plan is, because sometimes it sounds a little crazy. We get people who want to like change the whole world with $15,000, and it's a little scary for us. So we need to hear just what's the plan. If the plan includes money from other folks, that would be helpful to know, because sometimes your plan is bigger than, you know, you're combining other dollars. But if we don't know that, it looks like you're trying to, you know, revamp how everybody in the state of New Mexico counts meals all by yourself with $15,000. And that's a hard question. Debbie Johnson asked, can we pay for clients to attend training at CNM to become a community health worker using a capacity building grant? Ooh. Is Megan on this call? Can I ask Megan?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I would think that you could, as long as your program outcome is to increase community health workers.
Boom. And there's your answer. And just a friendly reminder that if you don't wait until the last week-ish, you can send a draft of this to us, and we're happy to review it if you have spectacular questions like the renowned Debbie Johnson. Thank you, Megan. You rock. All right. Hopefully everyone here knows, but we use volunteer panels to review our applications and pre-COVID to view presentations. This year we're doing things a little bit differently. There are still no presentations because of COVID. So all of the reviewing will happen just on your application. We are happy to have agency employees or board members serve as volunteers on this. I know that sounds weird. You can't obviously serve on your own panel. But, or even in the same, like if you work in a food bank, I will not put you in the food. You'll probably be on like education. But I think agency partners sometimes make the best panelists because they have an idea of what it's like. Alternatively, sometimes they make difficult panelists too. But I think it's a really good opportunity if you have the time to commit to it. It's around 35 hours of work, and we do explain that on this link here. But yeah, please, we do need panel volunteers, and we need more this year. to kind of spread the love a little bit. So please feel free to visit that. If you've been one in the past, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. And if you want to come back, just make sure all your EC Impact doodle still works. And feel free to reach out to myself or Ann. Mary asked, do the capacity building grants have to be the same program in which the basic need app is for? Can the capacity building grant be for a different program within a basic needs agency? Excellent question, Mary. No, capacity building grants do not need to be for whatever you wrote for your basic needs grant. Nope, they do not. They are what we call agency level. So it's really important that your basic needs focus on a program. If you have more than one program, if your whole agency is one program, then it's all one thing. Don't stress. But your capacity building could be anything at the agency level, including, like trainings and things that are unrelated to meals served or whatever. Like a big one last year was the trauma-informed care training. All right. This is our contact info. Hopefully you have, hopefully you have reached out to one of us or talked to one of us before now. I hope so. We've opened the application, so we're happy to hear from you. All right. I'm going to answer questions. I'll try to read them out loud. If your program is career readiness, then can you use the money to send clients to school? Yeah. Yeah, that sounds, if you mean use the money in a grant application, yes. But basic needs, yes. You could do a capacity building. I think it would depend on what your outcome was.
I mean, like, she asked about the community health worker course, and so that's what our program is doing. We're trying to get these women that are getting out of prison, like the paraprofessional certifications, like the community health worker course. And so we feel like that's career readiness. So that's why I was wondering if we're able to use that for that.
I agree.
As long as it sort of shows that it's building the capacity of your organization and the community. So it has to be a goal of your program, right? That whatever you're sending them to receive extra training, that it's building the capacity of your program, the capability of your program.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Megan. In the basic needs training manual for this year and subsequent meetings, there was a discussion about requiring agencies to do an employee giving campaign. Is this still going to be a requirement? And if so, how can we find out more about that? Good question. It is in there this year. We can talk about it right now. It is a requirement for funded agencies. So you do have to run an internal giving campaign. We're happy to work with you on that. But the information would come out with the award package. That's when we would send you some details about what it kind of looks like and how to do it in this new COVID world, what the expectations are, etc. So we intend to share that with awarded agencies, but I'm happy to answer any questions about it now.
I'll just add too that it's meant to be super flexible and that there is a person in development who will be sort of assigned to support the agencies and sort of work with whatever you have going on. So if you're a smaller agency and you want to do it for just a day, she can help you design it. Or if you're a bigger agency and you really want to spotlight the partnership and celebrate like some wins or whatever, she'll help you do that. So it's really meant to be flexible and fit your situation.
I love that everybody's so good at the chat. All right, how much longer do we sit in awkward Zoom? The last thing I want to say about while I'm waiting and filling up time for people to ask questions is that try to remember that the panelists that we try our best to recruit come from different corporations, different organizations, and things, but mostly they're just community members. So I would really try to remember that you're speaking to a community member, not before like a council member, board member, and things like that. They're just members of the community who also want to see good things happen in the community. And y'all are doing some great work. And hearing about it in your application is so meaningful. All right. I stalled a little. That's all I have for this presentation. I'm excited about the 15 minutes back. I'm happy to stay on if somebody wants to get like all one-on-one and schedule something. The application closes February 15th. Kara wants to have a question, has a question that you want to talk to me individually about. I'm sorry, I can't see Kara. Okay. Thanks, Kara. I'm like, is she just individually? Okay, I'll just stay on. But yeah, if you all want to schedule something or something, I really appreciate you coming to this training. Please let me know if you have any additional questions, and you can always reach out to us by cell phone and you can text me, that's fine.
Oh, Ann McCormick has a question, Melissa.
I couldn't get my chat to work well. In capacity building, could we apply, for example, for database development and some sort of training? The two things, or we can't?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, okay. I have a caveat that like probably however much you ask for is not going to cover the whole project. But yeah, it's okay if it's more than one ask in there. I don't know what the word limit is. I can't remember. It's like 4,000 characters, so just be aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be,
Okay.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Thank you all. You guys are so great. I really look forward to seeing your applications. And like I said, please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions or something wasn't quite clear. If you wake up in the middle of the night, we're here. We're happy to help. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing.